Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's quick review for Daredevil Season 1. This video is part of a series of videos where I give a quick spoiler-free review of a show currently airing. These quick reviews are aimed at those who have not yet seen the show, but those who have will know more of what I'm talking about. So Daredevil is a show several people had recommended to me, and I had heard nothing but good things about it. However, I'm not a huge fan of comic book movies, so I didn't think I'd care for comic book shows, and I suppose I was still a bit traumatized by that god-awful Ben Affleck Daredevil movie that came out in the early 2000s, so the thought of watching more Daredevil didn't sound very appealing to me. To be honest, what finally motivated me to watch it is I heard so much hype and good things about the show Jessica Jones, and plus the actress who stars in that show is someone whom I really loved in Breaking Bad and wanted to see more of her, so I decided to watch Jessica Jones. However, since Jessica Jones is kind of a spin-off of Daredevil, it's the next in a series of Marvel Netflix shows that will all be connected, I thought I might as well watch Daredevil first before I watch Jessica Jones, and not to spoil anything for my Jessica Jones review, but I actually ended up liking Daredevil a bit more. I've never heard of Jessica Jones' comic book before, but from what I gather from it and the other shows Marvel intends to do for Netflix, the comics themselves seems to be more gritty and adult-themed, which wasn't the case with Daredevil, as it was a comic I remember reading when I was a kid, and it was right up there with Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk, which I suppose was part of the reason I was skeptical about this show. However, the show did end up being more gritty and adult themed than any of the Marvel cinematic movies, or most of them anyway. And Winter Soldier was pretty gritty, which is why that's my favorite Marvel movie, but anyway, I actually liked Daredevil a lot more than the Marvel movies. I think adapting Marvel comics actually works better in a TV format where you can give the characters a long-term story arc and see them develop and grow. And I like the dark and gritty tone the show took. At times, I completely forgot I was watching a comic book show. If I may be so bold, I felt it had more similarities to Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight movies than it did to the Marvel movies in terms of the superheroes and villains weren't outright hokey and tried to make it more realistic. For example, Daredevil through most of the season doesn't dress up like a superhero in a costume, he just wears a mask, which is just like an ordinary rag that covers his face, and he's known as the Masked Man. Sure, it's probably set to be more of a typical superhero type thing in season 2, but still, it really worked for season 1. And the villain worked really well as well, which, of course, was Kingpin, as he's a very well-known villain in the Marvel Universe who I remember as a kid wasn't just featured in Daredevil, but also other comics like Spider-Man and Punisher and many more. But I think he is most known as a Daredevil villain, so it was great that they had him in the show, and he was played by Vincent D'Onofrio, who's absolutely perfect for the role. He was an amazing villain, someone you could really identify with and sometimes even sympathize with, and those are the best villains, the one who are really well-rounded, who you understand their motivations and they seem like real people, but at the same time they are really evil and doing a lot of messed up stuff, so you really want them taken down. And they did an equally good job at making him despicable and pretty unbeatable as well. So the season felt like a really full journey where Daredevil was faced with an impossible task of bringing down this crime lord who had practically all the police and politicians in the city in his pocket, and it was a great journey. I was invested in it the whole time. The show, while it kept me interested throughout, isn't anything I would call great. It did rely on several comic book tropes from time to time, and although it was tense and interesting throughout, it never struck me as anything truly great or dynamic. The character of Daredevil worked well for the show, but didn't strike me as one of the most dynamic or interesting characters on television. I found some of the flashback scenes to his childhood a bit unnecessary and a tad boring. So my rating for Daredevil Season 1 is an 8, extremely good. Despite all the good things I heard about it, I was pleasantly surprised at how good this show was. It was a solid crime drama with superhero elements, but it never was over the top with its comic book elements, as I feel many of the Marvel movies are. Although its characters aren't perfect, they are well-rounded and interesting enough to serve the purpose of the story that kept me invested throughout, and it features one of the best TV villains I've ever seen, so I have to give it that. All these things definitely make this show worth watching. So that's it for my quick review of Daredevil. You can check out my channel for many more spoiler-free quick reviews of other shows currently airing. In a couple weeks, I'll be doing my quick review for Jessica Jones, and in 2016, I'll be doing weekly episode reviews of shows like The Walking Dead, X-Files, Better Call Saul, Vikings, and more, as well as tons of Game of Thrones videos. So make sure you subscribe so you can keep up with all that, and thanks a lot for watching.